Welcome back. In this video, we will discuss how we can use the choose function. Choose is a simple, effective, but not so well-known function in Excel. It is an easy function to use as compared to using the if formula, as it is easy to write it and understand. Let us start using the choose function. So we type is equal to choose. The first value which we have to give in the choose function is an index number. An index number has to be positive, like 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Remember that the index number cannot be a 0 or a negative number. This value usually we will have in a separate cell. So we will link it to cell E4, and then the formula asks us value 1, value 2 and so on. So value 1 is the value which we want if we choose 1. Value 2 is the value if we choose the index number as 2 and so on. So in this case, value 1 is mobile, value 2 is television, then refrigerator, air conditioner, water heater, and then close the bracket and enter. So we get an error. This is because we don't have the index number. So if we enter 1 over here and press enter, we get mobile. Similarly, if we enter 4, we get air conditioner. So this is the simplest way how we can use the choose function. Instead of writing a long formula like if cell E4 is equal to 1, then give mobile. If E4 is equal to 2, then give television. If E4 is equal to 3, then give refrigerator and so on. So if formula is a very long and complex formula, whereas choose is a simple formula to write and it can be easily tracked. Let us move to our next example. So here we have 3 segments in a business which shows revenues by regions, and we want to use the choose function so that if we choose 1, we get the total of segment 1. If we choose 2, we get total of segment 2 and so on. One thing we can't do with choose function is that we can't use a range when we want to get back a single cell as output. So if we type is equal to choose index number and then select the range for segment 1 and then press enter. So we get a value of a single cell which is 3000. This is because 3000 is in the same row. If we fix the index number by pressing F4, if we copy this formula and then paste it in another cell, we get a value as 1800 because 1800 is the value in the same row. So we can't use ranges with the choose function. However, we can use ranges when we use choose function with other functions that can handle ranges like the sum function, the average function, count function, and so on. So here we can use choose function as choose. Again, index number has to be in another cell. So we'll link E5 and then value 1 is sum of revenues for segment 1, bracket close. Second value is going to be the sum of revenues of segment 2. And the third value is going to be sum of revenues of segment 3. Bracket close for the sum function and then bracket close for the choose function. Enter. When we enter the index number, we get the revenues for segment 1. If we enter the index number as 2, we get the total revenues for segment 2 and similarly for segment 3. If we enter number 4, then we will get an error because the index here has been created just for 3 values. So we are moving out of the range. So that is the reason we are getting an error. This is how you can use a choose function with other formulas which can handle ranges. Here is a third example where we have 4 lists of different products: television, refrigerator, ACs and mobiles. And we want to pull this entire list with the choose function. This is relatively simple. So we will type is equal to choose. Then we have the index number and then 4 lists as the values. So value 1 is cell B5, then C5, D5 and E5, bracket close, enter. If we enter 1, we get Samsung TV. Now we have to drag this formula to the below cells so that we get the entire list. So we will press F2 and then fix the index number, because index number is static. It can't move with the formula. So press F4 and fix the index number and enter. Now we can copy this formula and then paste the formulas using Alt-E-S-R and then enter, because we don't want to change the format of the cells. Otherwise, if the format has to be saved, we can just copy and the formula Ctrl-C and then press Ctrl-V. So the formatting gets changed. But if we use the paste special formula, which is if we again use Ctrl-C to copy and then we select the range and press Alt-E-S-R and then enter, we can paste the formula without changing the formatting. So here we have the entire list for the television segment. If we enter 2, we get the refrigerators. For 3, we get the ACs. And for 4, we get the list of the mobile phones. So this is how we can use a choose function instead of the if function, which could at times be more complex to write. Thank you.